Everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Global Market Outlook by Dr. Punita Kumar Sinha, Chairperson of InCred AMC. I'm Sugandhi Sood, Director Investments, and I hope this video finds you in good health. I hope you and your family are coping well during the COVID crisis. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hello, Punita. I would like to kick off this discussion with an update from you about how the developed world is reopening itself. Given that the U.S. economy has opened up first, could you give us some cues which we can extrapolate to the Indian market?
Thank you, Sakandi. The developed world itself, you can't put in one bracket. I will focus on the US, which is the most advanced economy right now, and the one that has opened up the most. So, in the US, of course, US was the one country that had the most COVID cases last year. And cumulatively, of course, the numbers here are still high, but the economy is really opened up significantly. First of all, about 70% of the population has been vaccinated with at least one dose. And in certain critical states like New York, Massachusetts, California, where a lot of the business activity resides, the vaccination rates are even higher. So business activity is picked up and is pretty much back to normal levels. Restaurants are open for indoor dining. They're full. At the moment, things are looking quite good on that end. However, the Delta variant has also started coming here. And despite the people being vaccinated, people are getting COVID, but albeit it's milder symptoms, and thankfully we haven't heard of too many serious ICU admittances or deaths from the Delta variant for people who are vaccinated. Of course, the people who are not vaccinated are getting impacted. So I think we have to wait and watch. While things are looking quite good right now in the US, and I think even in Europe, things have improved, the Delta variant is still something to worry about. And in certain states in the US as well, in certain cities, people have again put the mask on uh, requests. We had in the US, people had taken off their masks, but now there is a request for people to put on masks again so that they can protect themselves from the Delta variant. So business activity is good, and that is reflected in the recent GDP numbers. The recent GDP numbers this quarter were 6.5% real GDP growth. Although it's lower than the 8.5% predicted, the numbers are still very good. And if you look at the pre-pandemic numbers, real GDP growth in the US is higher than the pre-pandemic GDP numbers by 0.5%. So all in all, things at the moment are looking in pretty normal conditions.
Reassuring. But given that the recovery in economy is slightly fragile, how do you think the governments in Europe and the US what is their stance on the monetary and fiscal stimulus? We have seen the G3 balance sheets expanding and the money supply increasing so far. So, what do you think the governments, how soon do you think they would taper this stimulus, and how would that weave into your expectations for inflation?
Good point. So first of all, I'll also talk a little bit about consumer spending because that leads into inflation. So consumer spending in the US is very strong, 11.3% growth in consumer spending. And a lot of it is obviously the reopening of the economy. And so a lot of pent up demand is resulting in consumer spending. So demand is strong, but supply side constraints are still remaining. And so supply side constraints, supply chain are still broken. So that is leading to some inflation because availability of goods is not there. Availability of raw materials is an issue. Inventories are a problem. So I think the supply side constraints are likely to continue until the world normalizes from COVID. Now, in terms of consumer spend is strong also because the wage growth has been quite strong. The job market is again picked up quite strongly. In fact, it's very hard to find workers in the US. Companies are routinely finding it difficult to hire people because there have been so many unemployment benefits and checks that a lot of people have decided to step out of the workforce. And so, with that issue, companies are having to pay more to attract people. And then the third issue, of course, is that the commodities cycle has been very strong, also partly because of supply chain, partly because demand is picked up, and so the commodity prices have also been pushing up costs for companies. So companies are seeing costs rise, and they're not able to pass on these price increases fully. Now, this is obviously the fact that consumer demand is strong, and there are price increases that companies are trying to pass on. There is inflation. Inflation is still below the targets that the various central banks have set for raising interest rates. So whether it's India, where inflation is about 6%, or US, which is a little over 2%, I think the central banks are still not ready to pull the plug and to raise interest rates. The fiscal stimulus, I think, in various countries is beginning to taper down, especially because we've seen in the US, a lot of the stimulus packages that were given, especially for unemployed people, is now tapering down because those are coming to an end. So that results in showing lower fiscal spend. And there isn't the need right now for a huge fiscal spend because the country and the economies are beginning to normalize. Now, of course, if there's another wave of COVID and things get bad again, then I think governments will again start reevaluating fiscal stimulus packages. The story is a little different in India, where unemployment is still very high, consumer demand is still weak as a result, and wage pressures haven't, in fact, companies have been raising wages at a lower rate than they've done in the past. So the wage pressures are not there in India. And inflation is still, because the monsoon is looking quite good. As so far, I think it's above normal. The wage pressures combined with a better monsoon, the lack of wage pressures combined with a better monsoon, I think inflation expectations are, for a more benign inflation, but still obviously at elevated levels, but not enough for the central banks to start worrying about raising rates. I do expect that. I think if these wage pressures in the US continue and commodity prices remain strong, and the job market remains tight, and the supply chains remain problematic, that at some point inflation will actually become a concern, enough for central banks to start worrying about raising rates. So it's something that we have to wait and watch.
Very interesting perspective. Indian markets, rightly as you said, are factoring in, a cycle of high capex driven by those low interest rates and revival in consumer demand. Another interesting feature that we've seen in the Indian markets is this huge lineup of internet companies which are coming up with their IPOs. Now, we most typically Indian companies would either go and list themselves on the US exchanges, or they would continue in private, but in private hands. But with the current boom that we are seeing in the equity markets, we expect a lot of IPOs to come. How do you think, in view of this, how do you think the Indian universe is going to shape going forward, given that the representation of these companies is much higher in the US and global markets?
A great question, and a very important one for the point we are in, and the Indian listed markets for all the IPOs that are coming up. So first of all, I think every country has some competitive advantages that they have leveraged to create their own niche. India has been particularly strong on the payments side, and fintech has been an important element. China has been doing a lot of consumer internet, in some cases almost very similar to what's happening in the US. India has taken slightly different Indian companies have gone slightly, different way, but some of them are also doing exactly what we are seeing in China and the US in terms of the businesses. So whether it's food delivery, whether it is hotels, whether it is e-commerce companies, there are some of similarities that we are seeing with respect to what is happening in US and China. Now, of course, India has been traditionally more strong in IT services, and that's been the bigger part of India benchmarks as compared to some of the other countries. Indian IT companies like Infosys, TCS, etc., have dominated the tech sector in India. But now with the listing of Zomato and all these number of IPOs coming in the consumer internet space, I think the representation of the consumer internet companies in India will likely go up quite dramatically over time. If you look at what the consumer internet companies' weightings were in the US benchmarks not so long ago, about 2010, the numbers were about 6%. And today, those numbers have gone up to about 18 or 19%. This includes the FANG stocks. In China, in 2000, the consumer internet companies were at 3% weightage, and today they're about 12 to 13%. Given also what is happening in China, where the regulator is coming down hard on some of these consumer internet companies and changing the rules of the game, making it tougher for these companies, I think their investors have been quite concerned, and money has outflowed from some of the Chinese internet companies. Again, the valuations were also high to begin with, but these regulatory uncertainties are creating some concern for investors. As long as the Indian regulatory regime remains benign and stable, I think their money would flow into a number of these IPOs. And over time, the benchmark weighting, which is less than 1% today of consumer internet companies in India, is likely to go up quite dramatically. And I mean, in the next decade, it could well be over, it could well be close to 8 or 9%. It's hard to say, but I mean, that's what we've seen in other countries.
Interesting. Indeed, these companies offer a higher terminal value, like we've seen in the case of electric vehicles. That's what running behind the Tesla stock. I think that is what gives investors comfort to invest in technology companies in the first place. And in regards to terminal value, there's another very pertinent aspect that is probably not high on Indian companies' agenda, but not or probably not so visible is ESG and carbon emissions. With disclosures on ESG becoming so detailed and so common in Indian companies' publications, how do you see these matters influencing the direction and volume of flows into India in the medium term?
So Gandhi, ESG has taken a front seat everywhere, and the levers are coming from number of different places. One is from the boards themselves. Boards are under pressure to also demand a lot more from their companies on ESG and lowering their carbon footprint. Investors are putting a lot of pressure on companies as well, and then the regulators across the world are also demanding more disclosures on ESG. So I think ESG is going to be something that all companies, whether it's in India or overseas, are going to pay a lot of attention to. Even the Indian regulators have insisted on, business responsibility reporting. They've insisted on integrated reporting. And then with the pressures coming from the investors, companies are trying to start reporting more and more on what they're doing on ESG initiatives. So I don't think India is in any worse shape than what we see in some of the other Asian countries. In fact, I think Indian companies, with the mandatory reporting required by regulators, plus the CSR spends of 2% of profit, in some cases, India leads other countries. So I don't think the investor flow will be impacted by whether ESG is being adopted in one country more than others. I think it's going to be very company specific. Investors do realize that emerging markets are behind the US and Europe in terms of adopting ESG. And so India is going to be compared to other emerging markets. And I think we are doing a reasonably good job on ESG. So I expect that as ESG funds start looking for opportunities in emerging markets, India will be placed quite comfortably. Of course, we have a very large universe of companies, and so so far only some of the larger companies have been doing a very good job. But I think more needs to be done on the mid and small cap space, and that's where I think there should be some more pressure.
Interesting. Indeed, some companies which are, indeed, we've seen a lot of reorientation with Reliance Industries announcing big capex plans for the renewable space, and a lot of companies in India investing in the renewable energy side, and with the government allocating significant allowances for technologies such as EV batteries and hydrogen fuel cells. So, thank you for your feedback. And on that note, we would like to conclude the call. Thanks for taking the time, Punita. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you, Sugandhi. Thank you, viewers, for watching.